Yeah.
Good. So, namaskar, good evening, and welcome back to another intriguing session on this fabulous platform of inspiring Indian women. I'm Shivani, your host for today, and I know it's a little early for us to be doing this session because we normally do it around 7 o'clock. However, if you're watching us on Facebook and have nothing else to do, please do join us on Zoom. The link is on Inspiring Indian Platform WhatsApp group. Now, as you know, the sessions that we have been doing in Inspiring Indian Women have all been fantastic, different topics. However, I do have to say that today's session and the topic that we have today is so intriguing that whilst it was not possible for me to do a session at normal time of 7 p.m., I am very grateful to our guest speaker and our organizers for changing the timing, because this is one topic that's always been very close to my heart, and something that not just me, I'm sure all of you have some time pondered over it. So the topic that we have today is karmic laws, and gracing us with his presence is Dr. Mandeep Singh, Mandy sir, very popularly known as Mandy sir. He's with us again. He is no stranger to this platform. He has done various sessions for us. In fact, he has shared his wisdom, experience, knowledge on topics from veganism to happiness to parenting, and now today, karmic laws. So, Mandy sir, thank you for doing this session and welcome again on Inspiring Indian Women. How are you today?
Thank you so much, Shivani. Thank you so much, Rashmi. I'm so grateful that we are together again. And I was just insisting that Shivani be my host because I like to quiz her. It's like a live viva, and she never fails to come up to my expectations, and she is very honest and genuine in giving all the answers and not pretending any of these. And I suppose the same thing will happen today as well. So, Shivani, tighten your belts. You have to have answer some questions. It's all about the karmic laws. We say karma, it comes back to you, and so on and so forth. Often we get confused about what are good karmas, what are bad karmas, and how they come back, and can we transcend these karmas? This is the most important aspect, that can we transcend the karmas? You may believe in reincarnation, you may not believe in reincarnation. The baggage of karmas, at least for this lifetime, will keep on accumulating. It's your belief, but there are many models to it which fail to explain. If we do not take into account the previous lifetimes, then it fails to explain how many people they get into suffering right in the beginning, if you do not take into account, as a matter of fact, what kind of family I happen to be born in, and the conditions and so on and so forth. If we do not consider the past karmas, then it's very difficult to explain all these whys, and they can be solved only when we consider that these are going to be with us. So we will be discussing 6 karmic laws as such, and I will try to be as simple as possible as ever. So, Shivani, here we go. The karmic laws. First one is which I have learned through difficult lessons, or they got revealed to me, and that is that if you say something very casually, you said something very casually, you had no intention to hurt anyone, and the other person feels hurt, right? Whose karma is it? Mine or his? I said something very casually, but he felt hurt or she felt hurt. She took it as an offense. I had no intention of offending him or her, but she felt bad about it.
I think it's her karma, the way she's taking things.
Yeah. Add 1 to your score. That is his karma or her karma, whatsoever. Yeah. Let's not get into the gender part, right?
Yeah. The other person's karma.
If someone says something that hurts you, right? You feel hurt, whatsoever be his intention was good, to teach you, to correct you, or the intention was to hurt you. Whose karma is it? Or it
Well,
depends upon
it
the
depends on
intention.
the intention, right? If the intention is to hurt you, then it could be his karma also, like the first person's karma also. Um, that he's hurting back because he's hurt. But
But
normally,
in that case, is it your karma also?
also, so that's what I was about to say. But I think normally it is the karma of the person who is taking, um, who is being
Who's being hurt
hurt,
or who's hurting?
who's hurt, who's being hurt, mainly because they are the one who are
Yes,
perceiving.
yes. So you're right once again. That's why I insisted that only Shivani will host this event,
No,
right?
no, don't say.
And if we say something, if you say something, if you say something with the intent to hurt someone or teach someone a lesson, like मैं उसको सबक सिखा के रहूंगा, that kind of lesson, right? Irrespective of the fact whether he gets hurt or not, then whose karma is it?
Your karma, the
It's
first
again
person.
your karma. It's again your karma,
Mm.
right? So be on your guard always. Be aware of what's happening in your mind. Your karma depends on your intentions and not your actions. This
Yeah.
is something which we will be defining as a separate law as well. But as such, this law, the first one, is called law of feelings. It's law of feelings. It was only about hurting or feeling hurt. It was not about some other action of robbing or stealing or killing. It was only about feeling, right? So as such, be very aware of your feelings, whether you are speaking something or you are listening something. Always be aware of what is your intention. Your intention should not be to hurt anyone. And in case you are feeling hurt by someone, you may be judging his intention. If you are feeling hurt, again, it's your karma. This is something very important. Someone has said something bad about me, right? That is his karma. All right. But I should not feel bad about him saying something bad about me, because if I do feel hurt, then it is my karma as well. I have to guard my karmas. It means that whatsoever the situation may be, I should not feel bad about it, right? It's again, I say, it's something very related to that. I can be in three states. I can be an absorber, I can be a reflector. Absorber, like a sponge, you say something bad and I absorb it, right? And retain it. Absorb means retain it.
Yeah.
I can be like a mirror and reflect back, right? He said, you are a mad. And you say, no, what about you? Even you are mad. So you're reflecting, you're saying bad, same abusive words or stronger abusive words back to the person who's telling you all those things. It's like a reflector. And the third one is neither absorbing and retaining nor reflecting, but being transparent to it like a glass, right? Don't even just absorb it and retain it and keep all those feelings, grudges, right, in your mind. And don't reflect it back also, but just be transparent. Chala gaya aage, right? This is most difficult, but highly recommended, right? This is what goes in for the first law, as we call it as karmic law of feelings. The next one, which we're going to talk to about right now, is the karmic law of lust, right? But as I
Continue then.
say the word lust, we often confuse lust or confine lust to sexual cravings only. But here I want to just tell you that lust resides at three levels: in senses, in intellect, and in mind, right? So if it is in senses, okay, one of the sense can be related to the sexual cravings also. That is only one sense. You have five senses. इसको हम बोलते हैं हवस, right? It's a strong craving, uncontrollable cravings which can actually make you go on the wrong path. They hamper your decision making process as such, right? So someone is crazy about one particular craving in the sense that will be taken as his lust. It can be in intellect. Now it's very important that we feel that whatsoever is the lust in senses is taken as the base instinct or the basic instinct. But in many of the scholars, it comes in the form of lust for more and more knowledge, right? So they keep on reading, keep on reading, keep on accumulating, keep on. So that is again a kind of lust. So everything should be in moderation. Moderation in everything, and everything in moderation. And finally, we have lust, which is in mind, right? This is most important. This is the last infirmity of noble men. As Aristotle said, that desire for fame is the last infirmity or last impediment of a noble man. So it is there in mind also, that I want to be famous, I want to be more famous. So it's lust for the power, lust for controlling other people, lust for being known. So this is again the third kind of lust. We call it as the lust of mind. And all these lusts of any kind, they lead to other vices. Simple example is that I desire something, it becomes my craving, it becomes my lust, and it is not getting fulfilled, right? What will happen? It will turn into anger. Hitler wanted to control the entire world, but could not. It was unfulfilled. It can convert into anger. And in that angry mode, you lose your sense of reasoning. So he put all the Jews to concentration camps, which no one can justify or even imagine in these days. But if the lust whatsoever you had gets fulfilled, you want more of it. It becomes greed, and so on. So the root cause is the lust, and again the solution is awareness. Once I am aware of the fact that I am in grip of lust, the awareness itself and the consequences which will be thereafter is sufficient to reduce that lust, to remove that lust. It is only in the moments of unawareness that we have, we become slave to our lust. That's why they say that no lust will lead to no lust. I think it's all written over there. So know your lust so that you are not a slave of this lust. This was the second simple law, or the karmic law. Now, going to the third law, this is called law of intentions, which is extension of the first law, which was law of feelings, which also had intentions as a part of it. But here in this case, as we discussed earlier, that the karma is on the basis of intentions and not on the action. We take a very simple example, that of a robber and that of a doctor, right? The intention of robber is to steal, and therefore he stabs someone, someone dies. He's about to steal, but then he listens to the police siren and he runs away, right? And there's a doctor who gives an incision to the patient who's on the surgery bed, and then something inside was not expected, some tumor which bursts and leads to the poisoning, and the person dies. So in both the cases, the action is by and large same, right? In both the cases, incision was given, stabbing was done, and both result in death of the person, right? But what happens? Will you call that doctor as a criminal? Uh, of course not, because his intention was different from that of a robber. His intention was to cure the person, and the intention of robber was to steal and maybe to kill. So good intentions, they make good karma, and bad intentions, they make bad karmas, right? So it should be very, very clear. Many people say that I have very good intention, but then I don't work. I just keep intention. I don't convert my intention into action. Then will it be good karma? See, when you have good intention and you don't act upon it, it means that there was something lacking in the intention itself, right? You did not put in your 100%. You did not avail all the resources, or did not put in any effort to gather all those resources to fulfill your intention, right? If your intention was really genuine and right, you would have gone in for anything under the sun or beyond to make it happen. The very fact that you have not put in your effort means that there was something wrong in the intention itself, right? You have good intentions and then you have bad intentions, but the best is to have no intentions. Now this is something very, very confusing, and maybe I would like to know what do you think about this sentence about best is to have no intentions. Can you live without no intentions? Can you work without no intentions? Don't you need some intentions to fulfill the goal? And will you not go in for any goal setting or
Yeah.
planning? So these are the questions which come to your mind, that
Yeah.
how can we just continue to function without any intentions? So do you have any
You know,
take on this,
so
or you will just,
Mandy sir, sometimes they say कर्म किए जा फल की इच्छा मत कर. So
but is it
just
possible?
no, not always. Obviously not. There is a saying. Is it if it was possible to follow it, we would all be saint. So no, not possible at all. But I think no intention means that. So just keep doing the work that you are destined to do.
Destined to, right? So
Hmm.
when you say these things, that okay, I go to work in an organization, then should I not expect salary, or should I not expect raise, or should I not feel bad if it is not happening, right?
Well, it's
So
only humanly to expect all of those things, isn't it?
yes, but it's only humans who have that divine part in them, or potential to be divine. This is more important, or potential to be divine. So let's
Mm,
focus on this portion. Just do it. It's
mm.
very difficult.
Yeah.
It's very difficult. Practically, you will say, but not impossible. How? We start with the small things. We start with getting detached. We try again to put in our effort to do the things spontaneously. And I'm sorry for using the word try. We should not try. We should actually do it, right? So this is one of the basic things of what is being taught these days in neuro-linguistic programming. Avoid using the word try, because the moment you say that I will try to do it, it means that I am somewhere shirking away from the responsibility and the commitment.
Yeah.
I will try. You don't say that I will try to pick my kid at so much time. You say I will go and pick my kid. There's no question of trying. I will just do it, right?
I
The
have
moment you
to do it.
I
There is no
have
other
to
answer.
do it.
Yeah.
I have to do it, right?
Yeah.
You cannot say that I will try it. You can say, okay, come to my Zoom session. Okay, I will try. It means you are lacking commitment,
Yeah.
right? But one thing which I often add to this, right, is that when you say, when you commit something that I will be there, it's always better to use one word like God willing,
Mm.
one
Yeah.
word like inshallah, right?
Mm.
That God willing. And when you achieve that thing, when you do that thing and people clap and applaud that, well done, Shivani, you have done it, right? And then while accepting all those appreciations, it's better you add again with the grace of God,
Yeah.
खुदा की मेहरबानी से, right? So these two terms, God willing and with the grace of God, right? They keep our ego level in check, right? And they do not actually put so much pressure on us because we have made divine as our partner, right? So once we make divine as our partner in both achieving the things and as well for sharing the credit, right, we tend to move on the right path. The more we practices, the more we practice this kind of partnership, right,
Mm.
the more comfortable we will be in the life. We will be under less stress and we will not boast, and our relationship with other people will also improve on account of our humility,
Mm.
right? So these are the things that whatsoever we do it as an offering, because if we do good karma, we will have to be here and come back again in some other form to receive the rewards of the good
Good
karma.
karma. Mm.
पाप के लिए भी वापस आना पड़ेगा और पुण्य के लिए भी वापस आना पड़ेगा. सो पुण्य भी अवॉइड करो और पाप तो खैर अवॉइड करो ही करो, राइट? सो अवॉइड गुड कर्मा and avoid bad karma. Of course, you have to avoid bad karma, but more important is that whatsoever we do it as an offering, right? So this is the kind of attitude कि जो भी कुछ करो वो ईश्वर को, कृष्णा को, अल्लाह को अर्पित करते चले जाओ, right? Don't do the things, but don't be the doer, right? With the grace of God, तुम
Be
ही
the
करने
mediator.
वाले हो.
Mm.
Exactly. तुम ही करने वाले हो, तुम ही कराने वाले हो.
कराने वाले.
आपने जो किया, आपने मुझसे करा लिया, उससे क्या हुआ? आप कर्मों से मुक्त हो गए, right?
Mm.
You are salvated from this entire model of karmas,
Karmic. Mm.
karmic accounts. Your karmic accounts are simply offered to fire, as you do it in some yoga havna, right? So
Yeah.
अगले पिछले सारे कर्म आपके जल के राख हो गए. Otherwise, you don't know in which of your previous lifetimes what minor karma you had done it unknowingly, you had done it unintentionally, you had done it, or you had done it in influence of some other person or some thought or some ignorance which may come in this lifetime and create trouble for you. And in response to those situations, you do some or you commit some more such sins. So this will become an unending cycle, right? The best is that you start living spontaneously. Try it. Again, I'm using the word try, which is wrong, right? So this is nirvana. This is acting spontaneously. Everything you do as an offering is nirvana. So how can you act like that? For that, you have to have a kind of vision where you see divine in everyone, you see divine in everything, you see divinity in every situation, with acceptance, with gratefulness कि जो तू कर रहा है, करा रहा है, अच्छा ही कर रहा होगा. Thy will may be done. You have to flow with the flow, right? And drop any kind of biases and drop any kind of boundaries which might be there in your mind, right? And even at that moment of time when you say these things, the root of all this is love, right? Then you have to shower your love on every person, everything, every situation, as such. But the caution is, once again, when you say that you have to detach yourself, it is never suggested to shun the action, right? Like Arjuna said that, okay, I'm not going to go into war. And Krishna ji said what? That no, you have to pick up your all those whatsoever are the
Ammunitions. Yeah.
weapons and don't shun action, but shun the intention, whether good or bad. If I have to fight, I have to fight. If I have to kill, I have to kill. If I have to die, okay, that's Almighty's will. And I shall do it spontaneously, and I will not run away as such from the action. So this is the third law. Coming to the fourth law is the karmic law of nature. Now, as you know that I have also been giving some talks on organic farming, and that is exactly what I'm going to repeat here as the fourth karmic law of nature, as it was revealed to me while I was promoting practicing organic farming as such. And therefore, just see how the nature operates in agriculture to understand this law. You need not go to any fields. You can just observe this thing happening in your own backyard or in your own some simple pot where you have grown something or not grown something. The first law, very simple. You reap what you sow. Jo boge, so katoge. As simple as that. The second one is that when you sow, you have to wait for the crop. Patience. Have faith, have patience, श्रद्धा होनी चाहिए, सबूरी होनी चाहिए, सब्र होना चाहिए, सबूरी, right? And then different crops take different times to bear fruits. So some of your karmas will be rewarded immediately. Some of your karmas may be rewarded after some time. Wait, have patience. Some of them may not be rewarded at all in this lifetime. They will go into your account, to the karmic accounts as such, just as some crops take longer time to yield whatsoever are the results. For example, you have coriander seeds, right? And you sow those coriander seeds in your pot, and after 6 days, 7 days, 8 days, little leaves will come out, which will give you the flavor of coriander, and you can cut that. This is called microcropping, and you can use it for garnishing your dishes in 7 days, right? In case you want to have rice, it may take 2.5 months. For wheat, it may take longer. And you want mangoes from the mango tree, it may take 3 years, 4 years, and so on and so forth. So different crops have different time to bear fruits. And the yield depends upon the soil condition. Same seed, but depending upon the soil condition. Now, soil condition here means your tendencies. Not only the present karma, but also what are the tendencies. So we have to see what are our tendencies and how have we to keep our tendencies under check. And then every crop has a season. Everything happens for a reason, and everything has an appropriate time for its happening, right? So have faith in nature, have faith in karma. Just don't give up. Remain hopeful. More is the weed, less is the crop. Something very simple. So what is weed in our case? It's the negativity in our mind that acts as weed. And the weed will grow in unattended field. This is something very important. You don't sow anything, and you see so many things coming up. All undesirable things which come up, they are termed as weeds, right? So if we don't attend to our own mind, we are not aware of what's happening in our own mind, then so many things will keep on happening. So many thoughts will keep on occurring. You can have a debate. Someone said 54,000 thoughts on average they come to our mind. Someone said no, it's 60,000. Someone said no, the latest research says that it is 70,000. You can debate upon. No one is going to count. This was my first thought. This was my second thought. Sometimes these thoughts, they just keep on moving in the form of a train, right? Unchecked. If these thoughts are unchecked, then what will happen? They will go on feeding something, something, something in our unconscious mind. And our unconscious mind will get more and more enriched with these kind of unwanted thoughts, right? And this unconscious or subconscious mind, you can call it, if you're not very comfortable with the unconscious one, we say it's unconscious because mind is not conscious of its presence. So that's why we call this is the unconscious mind. In between these two is the subconscious mind, which keeps on visiting the conscious mind, which keeps on playing trick on the conscious mind, which keeps on making us do the things and goes back to the hiding. And then we start feeling guilty about the things which we have done, right? Our conscious mind starts feeling guilty of the things which we have done. And all that gadbad was done by the subconscious mind, right? Why? Because we have been programming our subconscious mind with our thoughts unchecked, unaware. So always be aware of the thoughts which are happening to our mind. So we have to weed out these thoughts to improve the crop. Means you have to now this is one point I would like to ask. How can you stop the thoughts? Can you stop the thoughts? You're having some bad thoughts, you're having some anxious thoughts, you're having some, okay, some person, some friend of yours is traveling and you're having all the kind of negative thoughts about something may happen to him, something may not happen to him, like that way. So all those negative thoughts are coming to your mind. So can you stop those thoughts?
Very difficult. The way I've learned is the only way to stop your thought is meditate. And even if you can stop it for 1 minute during meditation, that's a success.
That is a
Because the
success.
monkey keeps jumping in your mind all the time.
Yes, and especially when you are told that do not imagine any kind of monkey jumping in your mind. So the moment you try to resist any thought, that particular thought persists, right? So this is what we can only replace it. We cannot stop it, right? If we just say that there's a pot and let nothing grow in it, it's not possible. Something will come out, something will grow. So if you sow it with the seeds which you want to be grown as a crop, that can suppress the weeding part, right? Then you weed out, then it will be replaced by the positive thoughts, right? And this is one of the simple practice of chanting mantras, right? And doing some task with awareness, so that your mind gets occupied and you replace all those negative thoughts with something more positive, which is in some way going to connect you with the divine. But then it is also said that weeds are necessary to make biodiversity, right? Yes, it is. That is what is we call it as duality. If there is evil, then there will be good.
Good. Yeah.
You cannot have anything only good without having evil. You cannot have head of a coin without getting tail with it, right? So you have to accept it. There is negativity, there is evil, right? But that completes the game. It's your choice whether you side with the evil part of the party or with the good part of the party, right? So that is the conscious choice you have to make. Evil, you cannot stop the evil, but you have to choose whether you have to get along with the good part or with the bad part of it. And finally, you plow in the crop after harvest. What is the meaning of that? That exactly means detachment. That is the point where I think we should take a pause and think over that are done it, finish. Let's not get attached to it. होना था, हो गया, move on, let go, go forward. Don't absorb the things in a sponge, right? Let it be moving on through you in a transparent manner. Someone said good about it, someone said bad about that, someone criticized, someone said something really nasty or did something really nasty, right? Forgive it. Don't hold the burning coals in your hand, right? Learn a lesson. Don't forget the lesson. Learn a lesson, right? And move on.
Yeah.
It's very important. If we just go on forgiving, forgetting, and we don't learn the lesson from that, we will attract same kind of people, we will attract same kind of situations, we will attract same kind of hurt every time if we do not learn lesson from that, right? But having learned the lesson, forgive, forget, move on. Be better, be wiser, right? This is the meaning of detachment. Coming to the fifth law, I think you don't have any questions so far. Everything is clear.
No,
Or
I think good for now. Let's finish, and then towards the end, let's discuss over it on
right,
certain things.
right. So you can ask the participants in case they have any questions.
Certainly, anyone with any questions, please do mention it on chat. You can obviously, I do have a hand raise by Krishna ji.
So let her be allowed to speak.
Krishna ji, would you like to say?
Oh, thanks, Shivani, and thank you, Ji,
Hi.
for allowing me. Yeah, hi. It's very interesting, very informative, and very inspiring to hear these karmic laws. But I was just wondering. I mean, I know it's so easy for us to say that you move on and detachment and all that, but how can we detach? Because even though you want to detach, but people don't detach from you, and they keep on creating this negativity, and it's so difficult. We all know what is good and what is not good, but it's just the way we have been socially sort of, construction of gender, and people just bring in, I know it's sheer jealousy at times, but how do we sort of stop the negatives coming into our mind? I think I'm asking 2-3 different things. Please, sir, if you can explain a bit more.
Okay, I will, instead of explaining the things, I will repeat the key point that normally you have three options to any of the stimulus or stimuli coming to you. Stimulus can be in the form of action, in the form of gestures, in the form of words.
Yeah.
The first thing is that you just absorb all those things and don't retaliate, right? That is like being an absorber, right? But the issue is that once you absorb it, you retain it, right? You will continue to be bothered by all the things which you absorbed. So this is not recommended. This is not recommended. Second is to be like a mirror or like a wall, right? So one is to be punching back. Someone is going to punch you and you receive the punch. Second is be like a wall. So if someone punches you, he gets or she gets hurt back, right? But it's reflecting. You are reflecting it, right? Even that is not good. Even that is not good. That is not recommended, because that way the things can get escalated, right? The third option is that you be transparent. You be transparent like air. You be transparent like glass, right? You neither absorb nor you reflect, right? Things have come to you, you don't absorb, you don't reflect, you let the things pass, right? And start practicing from right now to the small stimulus or stimuli which you get from your surroundings, without feeling bad and without reacting back to it. Just don't absorb it. Just don't feel bad about it. Just don't retaliate, right? and be transparent. Imagine you don't have anything to absorb. Imagine you are just as transparent as air, just as transparent as glass, right? So whatsoever was thrown onto you has passed on. You will start enjoying the things. You will start pitying the people who are acting bad with you, right? You will actually drop, by this practice, you will actually drop any kind of ill feelings towards those people, right? And you will simply say that, Lord, these people are ignorant. Forgive them because they know not what they are doing. Right? This is something which Lord Jesus said when he was crucified. Right? That these are ignorant people. Lord, forgive them because they know not what they are doing. It's difficult. It's very difficult. Right? But with little practice for the small stimuli, you will be able to develop this habit and will be able to be transparent. I will not say again the word absorb. Be transparent to bigger insults, bigger actions taken against you, right? And as you become more and more transparent, you will see that the behavior of people around you will also change. It is not changing because there is some kind of cooperation coming from you. Conflict requires cooperation.
Yes.
Right? If you refuse to cooperate, if you refuse to feel bad, if you refuse to give your reactions to whatsoever people are doing, right? And they will say that, okay, iske saath to koi fayda nahi hai. There is no use, doing anything to him or her because they're not getting any response which they actually were expecting, right? So start with the smaller things and slowly your capacity will build.
Oh, wow.
And
Thank
I
you.
do want to add something here. I think Krishna ji asked a very apt question because listening to this, and I know this is the only way to let negativity out of your sight, but it's just so difficult because as humans, we are being taught over the years to listen, learn, adapt, understand, grasp, in school, in various other places. This is what you are being told. And over a period of time, of course, you try and figure out what you need to understand and grasp and what you don't need to. Like we say, things you don't need to know, things you need to know. Things you must learn, things you don't need to learn. I think I'm going to contradict myself now because I see my child, who's only 20 months now. He does things to get a reaction out of me. And if there is no reaction, he just moves on.
Exactly.
He doesn't bother. So he's born that way. But then I think now over the years, with the way human life is built, we will teach him to feel bad if there is no reaction. Or maybe I will teach him this way because if I'm asking for a reaction out of him and I'm not getting a reaction, then I will tell him that this is not the right way. You should give me reaction. So I will train him the wrong way, and then he will learn about the karmic laws. You know what I mean?
Yes,
is
exactly.
there a wrong way?
Yeah.
Yeah, sorry. I think the way you've shared it is very, very good way of looking at it. And sir, you know what? You are actually connecting us to move forward and connect with the divine. And I think that's the best way when people learn that there is all these little things don't really matter. But there are people who just don't understand. And it's like Shivani said, our human nature is such that anything sensitive does end up hurting a person, and that's what affects everybody's mentality, like, oh my god, this person has hurt me, I have to hurt him or her back. And that is where the conflict starts. Now, if only people could understand that there is no point in sort of doing this, why don't you move on and let them live their life, and they'll understand, then life would be so much easier.
Yeah.
Yes, but who's stopping you to act in that way? The thing is that we are more concerned about teaching someone a lesson
Yes.
right?
And our own
Give
happiness.
some kind of revenge or
Yeah.
retaliation than, as Shivani said, about our own happiness,
Yeah.
right? If someone has cheated you, right, then learn a lesson that this person is not to be trusted, right? And don't go in for that kind of situation where you have to trust him or her again. Learn a lesson, but then won't feel bad about whatsoever has happened. You have learned a lesson, you have learned a lesson, you move on. I have not taken any responsibility of improving others, right? Until or unless they are very close, like my own kid or my own sibling. If at all he or she is really interested in improving himself or herself, only then I should intervene into their personal lives, right? As a kid, I think as a mom, it's your responsibility to move the kid on a certain track, and that also up to a certain age, and after that you have to let go,
Yeah.
right? It's not that your kid is married and your kids are also married, and still as a mom and as a big dadima you feel that okay, all the time mending, all the time micro managing your kid is 55 years, as my mom tries to do with me and all that, right? So that maternal instinct is something, mamta, that is called attachment. Mamta means attachment,
Yeah.
right? It's a very negative emotion. So you have to learn to let go even with your kids, and even right now give them certain space to learn from their own experiences, until or unless they may happen to commit something or do something which results in an irreversible harm, like putting their hand in fire and so on and so forth. So let them learn through their own way, right? So any more questions on that? We move further.
Yes, please.
Okay. So we go to the fifth law, and as I said that uh, this is the penultimate law. This is the karmic law of knowledge. This is the karmic law of knowledge. Again, as a teacher or as a preacher, right, or as a reformer, anything, social activist, and so on and so forth. As a scientist, for example, it's very important to know that we do not create knowledge. As a teacher, we do not disseminate knowledge. It's very difficult to absorb these two things. It's very difficult to agree to these two statements, that we do not create knowledge, that we do not disseminate knowledge, that we do not give knowledge. This is fact. Knowledge is there in us. It only gets manifested, right? And when the time is right. So we do not try to teach any lesson to anyone. In that trying, we will hurt ourselves. Keep the grudges, keep the hot coal in our hands, and burn ourselves. Someone or something kindles this knowledge in us. Someone, person, or something. The knowledge was there, it gets manifested, and that someone or something is called Guru. Right? This is the definition of Guru as such. And we see that if we take at a very subtle level, the all pervasive Guru is what we call it as Vahe Guru, means the divine, means Nirankar, the formless, universal consciousness, whatsoever name you call it, right? At physical level, it can be a book, something is written in the book, and the knowledge gets manifested in you, right? Learning is an internal process. Learning is an internal process which is triggered by some external event or stimulus, right? That external thing can be a book. That external person, it can be a person, it can be an animal, it can be an event, and so on and so forth. So all types of knowledge, the knowledge of your own mind is supreme. Know your own mind. Man jeete, jag jeet. If you have known your mind, you have known everything as such. Sometimes our mind wants to rest. We want peace. We want tranquility. And sometimes our mind wants to engage in action.
Yeah.
You cannot remain tranquil and calm for a long. And then,
No.
you know, something will start happening inside and say, get up, Shivani, now I have to do some work also. Right? It's time
Like
to
they
get
say,
into
idle mind is devil's home.
devil's home. Right?
Yeah.
You cannot remain idle for so long. Something
Yeah.
will start cropping up now. Some weeds will start growing. Right?
Monkey starts jumping.
Monkey starts jumping. But the most important of all is the third state that is when the mind is aware, right? And this, when the mind is aware, is what is called awakening. You are awakened, you are enlightened, you see what is happening, not as a doer, but as a witness. It's a kind of thing which is difficult to describe in words as such. So when that happens, that I am not doing the things are happening. I am part of that happening. I'm not in the doer. I'm aware of all the feelings which are coming to my mind, visiting my mind, going on the screen of my mind. I'm watching a movie on the screen of my mind. I'm aware of all the emotions. Emotions can be good, happiness, joy, enthusiasm, can be bad, sorrow, depression, anger, frustration, and so on. Do get this kindling of knowledge from any source, mean any religion, right? Wherever you want to read Buddha and you feel good about it, you need not be a Buddhist to read Buddha, or a Sikh to read Guru Granth Sahib or some concepts in Sikhism as such, because this knowledge is not in any one's personal domain or belonging to any particular community or to a sect or a religion. This knowledge is universal. So open your mind to this knowledge, and this knowledge alone will dissolve all your karmas, all your tendencies, all your good or bad part of the nature, and need to the ultimate state, what we call it as surrender.
Yeah.
Right? Surrender. This
So like
is,
you said, you are not the doer, you're just the mediator. कोई करवा रहा है and you have surrendered yourself.
you have surrendered yourself. You are like a puppet and someone is pulling the strings and you're dancing to the tune, right?
Yeah.
So it becomes his karma, not your karma. It's very
Yeah, but
smart thing, you know. It's very clever
sometimes
also.
sometimes I've heard people doing bad things and saying it's not in my control. It's not me who is doing it. It's something inside me that's making me do it.
Right. You know, there was some person was smart, like as you said, then he said to the judge in the court that, okay, you know, it was not I who stole these things. It was these are my hands who stole, right? And the judge said, okay, I'm going to imprison your hands for six years, right? So it's just a way that you see, this is an excuse. You're giving, someone is giving a lame excuse, right, about something which is being done by him or her, right, as a way of saying that I have not done it, it was done by Almighty, right? And the judge can say that, okay, I am passing on this sentence is not also being passed by me. I am passing this sentence as instructed by Almighty. So the jailer is going to put you in jail because he is also representing Almighty. So, you know, that way the argument is not going to hold water for long. But I think before we go to the 6th point, Shiva has
As a question, I was just about to say yes. Shiva?
Yes.
Yes, please, go on.
Am I visible?
Yes, absolutely.
Sorry, sorry about my appearance, but my question is a little bit, emotional. I met two persons in life, okay, who lost their very dear ones. Okay, one girl actually lost her mom, and she lost mom at the age of 14, and she is now 22. Yet she has a great amount of trauma in her about the motherly love. And the other case also has similar type of yearning for love from the father, from the mother. You know, how do such people become normal? Is it the karmic? Is there any relation of past karma, past life karma, maybe? How to cope up such people? Is there any information provided?
Yes, surely there is. First thing is that how do you place yourself in that situation? Like, what do you think is your role? What you can do to give comfort to these poor people? Poor means poor creatures. Can you aware? Can you get my question and respond to that? Right?
Shiva?
Yes, yes, I'm here. Can you please come again, sir?
Okay, it's like this, that where you place yourself and feel that you can provide comfort to those creatures, those beings, those humans who are in this situation where they are being deprived of the love or the resources which they require, which they need right now.
Okay. See, I put myself as a healer or maybe a friend who can just understand and give them a solution from my perspective.
It means that that situation has come from your point of view as an opportunity to do something good for yourself and then. Are you getting my point or not?
Yes.
Right? So first of all, be grateful that you are not in that situation. Second, be grateful that you can provide some healing and some comfort to that person or that girl who is deprived of mother's love, right? And try to, again, I'm using the bad word try, and commit yourself to comfort her to the best of your resources, right? And again, be grateful that you are in a position to do it, right? It is
Yes.
not that we have to leave her to her karma. Okay, she must be having some bad karmic records because of which she is undergoing this process of trauma, right? But you think from your perspective that it is giving you an opportunity to heal or comfort her, right?
Yes.
So if you start taking it like that, at least you will not feel bad and you will not amplify her trauma, and rather reduce it by your efforts and your available resources. View it like that and you will feel grateful.
So, Mandy sir, do you think it could also be his karma or his karma duty to be a supporter for those people?
Exactly, this is
But
what exactly I'm saying.
sometimes we say this person was an angel to me. You know, if this person wasn't there, nothing would have gone right. So he becomes like an angel. You know, it's his karma that he's coming to you. He was in this session, he heard you ask the question about a third person, and now he becomes a mediator.
Yes, so you can see that it happened to her. One of the reason for that is that it has given you a chance to become an angel.
Yeah.
Am I clear about it?
Yeah. Does that make sense?
Yes, 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 ma'am.
Counter question?
Yes, yes, yes.
Okay.
Okay,
Yeah.
thank you so much, Shiva. Thank you so
Shiva.
much. So we
Okay.
go to the last part of all these karmic laws, and that again is the karmic law of surrender. We will focus on surrender this point. surrender doesn't mean that I'm feeling defeated and helpless. Normally, when you say that this army of um, Pakistan surrendered to the army of India during the Bangladesh Liberation War, that surrender was out of their helplessness. That
Yeah.
surrender was out of the defeat. But when we talk of surrendering to Almighty, it is not by this feeling of feeling defeated or feeling helpless, but this actually is I'm surrendering myself in love. ये लो मैं हारी पिया,
Yeah.
ये लो मैं हारी पिया. Right? So that kind of, that I am surrendering my everything to you. You take all my resources. You take my wealth. You take my mind. You take my body. You take my all resources. They do not belong to me. Everything belongs to you. That is the feeling of love. When you surrender, you sometimes surrender in front of your kid when he punches you and you become a punching bag. It's out of love. Okay, let him punch, let him do, right? So that's surrender, not in defeat. That surrender, not in that you feel helpless, that what should I do, he's punching me, but that's out of love, right? You become a punching bag. It's
Yeah.
a surrender in love.
Can
And
I
so,
add one more
sure,
word to
sure,
it,
sure,
Mandy
sure,
sir?
sure, sure.
Because you gave a child's example, and you're right. For me personally, I think you're right. That's the only time I have at least surrendered, when my child uses me as a punching bag or pulls my hair or wants to hit me because he's angry. It's the unconditional love that I have for him. Love is there for many other people, but the unconditional love, that no
Yes.
matter what you do, I'm always there for you, or I will always be there to look out for
and
you.
and you don't feel bad being
Oh,
hit
you're
or being,
happy.
you're
You're
happy,
the
you're
more
happy,
you're taken for granted, the more happier you become.
right? So this is the surrender,
Yeah.
right? We say हरे का मतलब क्या होता है? हर ले, चुरा ले, हर ले, सीता हरण. हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे हरे, हरे राम 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 हरे हरे. कबीर मेरा मुझ में किछ नहीं, जो किछ है सो तेरा, तेरा तुझको सौंपते दे दिया. सरेंडर, क्या लागे मेरा, मेरा तो कुछ है ही नहीं, सब कुछ तेरा ही है. That's the extent of surrender. Surrender also means connectivity.
Yeah.
You become one with him. You lose your ego. You lose your individuality.
Yeah.
Surrender means continued remembrance. All the time you are lost in his love. His with capital H. That is what we call it as Naam. Right? I've already said, losing your identity. When you get connected to the source, the power of source become your source. This is something very, very important. I can give a small example. The time limit is almost over. That you have a grid of power, your power grid, that contains enormous amount of power, right? If you put a small connecting wire, a thinner connecting wire, you can draw smaller amount of power, right? The moment you want to draw more amount of power, you have to put in a thicker wire, right? Then you can draw more amount of power. The thicker is the wire, more is the power which you can draw. It's the connectivity. You have made connectivity. The connectivity is made as strong as that of the wires of the grid. Then entire power of grid is your power, right? So it's only the connection between me and the Almighty which is limiting the divine power coming to me, right? That's the meaning of when you surrender. It means that there is no obstacle. Totally surrendered, no obstacle, no impediment, no resistance, right? Infinite conductance as such. So getting connected to the universal source, the entire universal resource, or you can say the entire resource or the entire universe becomes yours, right? So I mean, it's a difficult thing as such for our mind to accept, because it's we have to unlearn so many things, right, to get to this state of surrender,
Yeah.
right? Now, when we say surrender, surrender means going to a no mind state, right? No mind, absolutely transparent, no intentions, no karma,
Yeah.
just an offering. Get connected, lose your individual self, what we call it as Jivatma, merge into the universal self, what we call it as Paramatma. Be a channel. Most of the things are getting repeated as you see. Be an instrument. Let the divine overtake. Let the divine overtake. That is called surrender. Thoda thoda practice karo. A little practice every day, few moments, and go on increasing part by part, incremental manner, right? Let it be an evolutionary kind of effort instead of revolutionary kind of thing. Before we come to Shiva Shiva, once again, last portion is that this is what is the disclaimer that we have discussed 6 laws. These 6 laws, the first law was law of feeling. I'm just, you know, that of lust. Third law of intention, fourth law of nature, fifth law of knowledge, and the last one of surrender. All these, I'm just revising and concluding 6 laws. They may not be all inclusive karmic laws. I'm not claiming that everything is covered in it. They're not all inclusive. My mind is small, finite, limited resource. So I cannot claim to know everything or reveal everything. These are revealed to me as, but at the same time, they are not claimed to be independent. There's a lot of overlapping here and there, as you have seen, right? Nor are they claimed to be derivative of these, that this law came out of this and this law. So these are the 6 laws in journal, guiding principles as such to improve our quality of life. But they are surely not contradictory. It is not that anything said in one law is contradicting anything said in another law. So they got revealed from seemingly independent sources, seemingly, right? You can say that from different religions or from different sects. So let's pray once again that these laws, they get imbibed in my daily life. It's my prayer, daily life. So this is all we are going to stop at this moment of time being the limit. And we have some questions before we conclude. Let's take one more question or whatever is given in the chat.
Sure. We've got Shiva Shiva again asking a question. I think Shiva Shiva, I would let you say your question.
Yeah. In the point of view of surrender, can you please explain fear of death? In order to extend that question, do I need to explain a little more?
Sure. When you say surrender, when you
Yes.
say all my resources, mera dhan, all things related to my mind, mera man, and my body, mera tan, it's all yours, right? Then why should be I afraid? Why should I be afraid of dying? When I've already surrendered my tan, my body, my mind, and my resources, then you are in love. As a matter of fact, I always suggest that at least once in a day, we should put ourselves in a situation for, let us say, 30 seconds or 1 minute every day, at least once, if not twice. What if I die now? Something very difficult as such to imagine, right? What if I happen to die now? And different kinds of feelings will be evoked. I have so much unfinished tasks to do. Who will take care of my family? Who will take care of my parents? What will happen to me? Where will I go? and so on and so forth. Just keep on pondering on those questions and give a kind of reassurance to yourself, right? Reaffirmation to yourself that whatsoever will happen for good. Thy will may be done. Everything will be taken care of. Everything will continue to be the way it is. Nothing is going to change much. No one will miss you. After some time, everything happens to come back to its equilibrium. ये संसार यूं ही चलता रहेगा, right? By my going away from this, it may affect few people for few days, and they too will reconcile to the fact. And if you practice this on daily basis, your fear of death will vanish. Not only that, your level of detachment will increase to the level that you will become such a carefree person. I'm again using the word carefree and not careless, that your quality of life will improve by manyfold. You can take it as an assurance. But again, as they say, that proof of pudding lies in its eating, right? You have to do it once, twice, three times in a week, for example, and you will find all these changes happening in your life. Just do it.
Yes, thank you so much, Mandy ji. Can I have, in your life, you might have come across many people. Can you quote a couple of those who express this sense of, surrender?
In person, you want to say that in person, I have met these kind of people who have surrendered themselves?
Yes,
That
you may quote any sages, even Guru Nanak ji also from his life.
I did not meet him in person now, as you said.
It's okay.
So
In
what you mean
person.
to say, anyone you have come across who has reached the stage of surrender.
Yes, definitely. They say that many masters, many lives, many masters. So in my lifetime, I came across my master who had reached this level of surrender, right? But time being the limitation, I will just say that he had accepted all those things in such a graceful manner. He lived ripe age of more than 100 years, and his wife was also, she also had a very long life indeed, almost in 90s. And one day insisted, he was living with us in our city, and he insisted that he's going to go back to his native place, and we said, okay, let it be. And then he went, he spent some time with his family, with his wife, and his wife was not feeling well in the evening, and he said that, okay, you take rest. And he indicated rest of the family, that all of you please take rest right now. And that was 8 o'clock in the night. And when every person had retired back, and in the middle of the night somewhere, or you can say the early morning, his wife, she expired, right? And my master, we all have at least this much, trust, that he knew this was going to happen. That is why he insisted on going on to his native place. That is why he spent some time with his wife, comforted her, because he knew that these are her last moments. And he knew that his rest of the family is going to be grieving on account of the loss. And he asked everyone to remain quiet and take good amount of rest. So when we went to his native place to express our feelings, and he said, oh, don't feel bad about her going. She had to go, as simple as that. Now, losing a companion of life for let us say around 80 years or maybe 75 years, they were together. I don't want to narrate the entire story of their companionship in their last lifetimes, because that will go beyond the present scope of the talk, right? And I see that he was so calm and so composed, and he had accepted the things, he had anticipated the things, and the way he responded to that situation, it was possible only for an enlightened, awakened person. A normal person will feel quite disturbed uh, if this kind of thing happens to him or her. So that is one example, and I think we should close on this. uh, Shivani, I think we have no scope for other more questions. There are more questions also, I suppose.
I think we will leave it for next time for now, because we have gone well over time. But it was a fantastic session. I think this is one topic that one can keep on talking about or discussing about, because there's no end to it. You know, after every question, there is another question from the answer. So thank you, Mandy sir, for bringing such a fabulous topic to the Inspiring Indian Women platform, and really taking the courage to talk about it, because it's not easy talking about it in a platform like this, because everyone comes up with different questions. We all are struggling with our own lives, and we all question our karmas. I think personally, me, because I'm a big believer on karma, I question on it every half an hour. Was this right? Was this not? What is this karma about? Thank you. Fabulous session again. We look forward to many more sessions like this. Rashmi, thank you for organizing it, and thank you for adjusting the time to 4 o'clock. That was really helpful. Over to you, Rashmi.
You know, any time for Mandy sir, any time. He just has to be there. Thank you so much for being part of Inspiring Indian Women, Mandy sir. And we always have a lot of demand for you, and we will continue hosting you in coming months, more and more of your sessions, because it really uplifts us. And believe me, whatever you said today, I have told myself that I'm going to follow it, because when, you know, the no reaction, that's what I'm going to do. No reaction. Silence is the best weapon. Yeah. So thank you again, Shivani. I know your baby is there waiting for you to come, and it's been amazing session. And always, like always, Mandy sir, we just simply adore you.
And I will say that being with you is my good karma.
Oh, that's so nice, and for us as well, with you. So, okay, everybody, just tomorrow, don't forget to be here on the Inspiring Indian platform at 7 p.m. UK time and 11:30 India time. We are going to have our very own Mr. Sanjay Suri from CNN IBN. He is a journalist on TV18, and he is going to talk about his book, which is The Gandhian Affair, and he's going to talk about the importance of songs in movies, Indian cinema, and he's going to also sing a couple of lines for us. So tomorrow, don't forget. And the host for tomorrow is Hema Karyappa. Take care, everybody. Goodbye from Inspiring Indian Women.
Thank you. Goodbye,
Thank you.
everyone.
Bye, Mandy sir. Bye, everyone. And thank you very much, Shiva. It was pleasure having you here. Take care.
Thanks.
Thank
Bye.
you so much.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone.